this time, I will call the Board of Adjustments and Appeals regular meeting of June 26, 2019 to order. At this time, would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May we have roll call, please?
Chairman Taylor.
Here.
Vice Chairman Shihab. Member Smith Rodriguez.
Here.
Alternate Member Kilpatrick.
Here.
Member Johnson.
Here.
Okay, we have 4 members present, so we can conduct business this evening. We were given a Form 8B for Member Sid for Sid, that is not joining us up on the platform tonight. Do we need to explain that for any reason, or just?
Has a copy of Form 8B been submitted to the record?
Yes.
I think we're good.
All right, thank you very much. First item up on there is the approval of the minutes from May 29th, 2019. Was there any corrections or additions that anyone noticed that need to be corrected or anything?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Very well.
I'll second the motion.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed? So passes. Thank you. Okay. Okay, time for me to do a little reading now. All persons who anticipate speaking on a public hearing item must fill out an oath card to be heard on that agenda item and sign the oath thereon. Those cards are located at the table near the entrance to the council chamber or may be obtained from the recording secretary. This meeting will be conducted in accordance to the procedures adopted in Resolution 24-1997. Those speaking in favor of a request will be heard first. Those that oppose will be heard second, and those who wish to make any public comment on an item will speak third. The applicant may make a brief rebuttal if necessary. A representative for either side, for or against, may cross-examine a witness. Anyone who speaks is considered a witness. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents that you desire for the commission to consider, they must be submitted into evidence and be retained by the city. And please submit those to the recording secretary. So, everybody's turned in their card. Staff, has the agenda items or agenda item been properly advertised?
Yes.
And do we have any members that have spoke to the public or had any contact with the public on this matter?
No.
All right, seeing none, we'll continue on then. First, there is no consent agenda, there is no old business, so we'll go to new business, which is variance 4-2019. The address is 550 South Brown. So staff, would you lead us in, please?
So this variance before you tonight is for property again at 550 South Brown, which is located located on the corner of Brown and Palmetto. The request is to approve a series of variances to setbacks in a zoning district, which I'll describe later, and to landscapes yard requirements as well, and to allow a stormwater or part of a stormwater requirement to be located within that landscape yard. The applicant is CityofTitusville, who is the engineer of record. On behalf of the owner, Community of Hope Incorporated, they request these civil variances to allow for the development of an affordable housing project located at this site. The variances are necessary to allow a 9-unit residential multifamily development with associated parking, landscaping, and stormwater improvements without the need to vacate a right-of-way. So I'll start on page 9, I believe, of your packet, and that's the beginning of the staff report. What was provided to us by the applicant is a table included with a rendering of the proposed plan for the project. You'll see this table here. We've got them labeled here as variances number 1 through 9. And the first one is to a front yard setback. The second one is to a side yard or side corner setback. The third one was withdrawn, was found to be not necessary. So actually, there were only 8 variances here. The fourth one is to a side setback. And the fifth one is to allow for an encroachment into a 20-foot landscape yard requirement. In fact, the entire perimeter of this property is supposed to have a 20-foot landscape yard requirement. Then number 6 is to the same requirement, but just at a different location. The 7, the same thing. 8, the same thing. And then 9 has to do with allowing a portion of that required stormwater, which is going to be required as part of a site plan, to be partially located into that required landscape yard. Starting on page 10, which is the second page of page 10 of your packet, but the second page of the staff report. The legal description describes a plat that was approved prior to 1900. So I'll show you, there's an image in here we included in here that includes a different kind of block pattern, development pattern that was approved prior to what we typically approve with subdivisions now. Includes 10-foot alleyways, includes very small lots, block perimeters would include single-family homes and multifamily, and could include other types of uses as well. But it was a pretty standard type way of approving plats back then, that kind of development pattern. So that's what we have here, and we have a very suburban type zoning district on this property, R3, which is a residential multifamily zoning, and it has very deep setback requirements for the front, side, and a corner, and also our landscape strip requirements which apply to all developments throughout the city, as long as they're outside of our downtown zoning district. And so this particular development, because it is multifamily, is going to be required to have a 20-foot perimeter-wide landscape strip. The north of this property has a single-family zoning. South of the property has a multifamily, same R3 zoning. East of this property, across the street, also has multifamily, R3. West of this property, there are 2 properties that are immediately west of it. One has the R3 multifamily zoning, and also the other one has a single-family R1C. I received a call from the property owner of the property the owner who owns the property with the zoning of R1C immediately to the west, and was just curious about the property. I sent her, she asked for the plan and the application, which I provided to her, and I received no more comment from her after that. I have not received any more comments about this project. The lot characteristics. The property is bisected by a 10-foot wide unimproved public alleyway that was platted in 1888. The north portion of the property is square with frontage on South Brown Avenue. The south portion of the property is rectangular with frontage on South Brown Avenue and Palmetto Street. In 2010, the city demolished 2 apartment building structures located at this property. The property is currently vacant. In 2018, the city granted the vacant property to Community of Hope Incorporated to allow for the development of an affordable housing project. On page 10 of your packet, I'll read briefly the powers of the board. That you will consider that there are special conditions and circumstances that exist on this property that are peculiar to this property. Special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. Moving on to the next page, granting the variances requested will not confer upon the applicant any special privileges denied by others. The literal interpretation of the provisions of the ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zoning district. The variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the building, land, or structure. Granting of the variance will preserve the spirit of the ordinance, remain in harmony with its general purpose and intent. In granting the variance, public safety and welfare must be assured. In no case shall the granting of the variance result in a change of use. That's not an issue here. This is the use is consistent with the zoning, or proposed use is consistent with the zoning. So later on, further down after the analysis on page 11, I'll read briefly what's there. Again, the variances are necessary to allow a 9-unit residential multifamily development with associated parking. What was originally proposed to us was an off-street parking lot that would require a significant amount of stormwater onto this property, and would also have required other variances in order to meet the R3 multifamily zoning district standards. So we worked hard with the applicant to see if they could revise the plan in such a way to kind of minimize the variances, to minimize the need for encroachments, reduce maybe the amount of stormwater, if possible, by moving the parking, if at all, maybe use parallel parking on street, that thereby not requiring so much stormwater requirements, and then saving room, basically, for moving the buildings around a little bit more, and then also reducing the encroachment of the stormwater inside required landscape strips. So we went back and forth with the applicant on this to try and reduce some of the variances, but no matter what we did, we still are going to require variances in order to allow this development to happen. And in fact, it's a replacement of what was there already, basically. The property is approximately 28,000 plus square feet and is bisected by a 10-foot public right-of-way, or alley, that's what they're called. An alley is defined as a right-of-way set aside for public travel that is less than 30 feet in width. The alley is an unapproved right-of-way. Property fronts both South Brown Avenue and Palmetto Street. There are additional 10-foot public alleyways located at the north and west boundaries of the property. The zoning of the property, again, is R3. The zoning district requires 25-foot front and rear setbacks, 20-foot side corner setbacks, and a maximum building coverage of 50%. In addition, a 20-foot wide landscape yard is required adjacent to the public rights-of-way and perimeter boundaries. The current plan submittal attempts to preserve the spirit of the code and remain in harmony with its general purpose and intent by encroaching into the setbacks and landscape yards at a minimum. The current plan eliminates the on-site parking lot, thereby drastically reducing stormwater retention needs. Parking is instead primarily provided on street. The applicant also requests the ability to locate stormwater retention slopes in the required 20-foot perimeter landscape yard. This is much less than what was originally proposed to us. Section 30-337, paragraph B of the code states, landscape yards shall not be included as drainage unless otherwise approved by the administrator, providing that the original intent and purpose of this section is met and there are unusual circumstances provided to the administrator. The staff concurs with the applicant's request, provided a landscape plan with the vegetation in the retention area is proposed with a site plan to the satisfaction of the administrator. So that's one of the conditions, actually, we're going to propose if this is approved. So moving down on page 12 of your packet, again, there's the table that was provided for the requested variances. The staff recommends approval of the variances. There are conditions. The first condition is that the applicant provide a landscape plan with appropriate vegetation to the satisfaction of the administrator per the section I just read earlier, section 30-337B. 2, the multifamily development shall be screened from, at a minimum, the adjacent single-family zone properties with a fence at 6 feet in height and consistent with section 30-339, subparagraph A. So basically just an opaque screening. Condition 3, if the applicant, during the site plan review, requests to locate any improvements in the public right-of-way, that includes the alleyways, then the applicant must apply to vacate the affected portion of public right-of-way. This, unfortunately, does not address the parking spaces. That's a separate issue. That could be dealt with the Public Works Department. They have concurred. They had no objections as far as we received, as far as putting the parking spaces along the street there. Approval of the variances will allow for the development of a 9-unit residential multifamily affordable housing project. Granting the variances are the minimum necessary to make reasonable use of the property. Property is less than an acre and bisected by a public right-of-way. Vacating a public right-of-way for purposes of meeting the literal interpretation of the code is a hardship not created by the applicant. I'm going to skip over the application in your packet and refer you to a few exhibits. On page 19 of your packet, you'll see the zoning map. And you can see the property highlighted there or drawn there in the red squares, or rectangles there. That is the subject property. See to the north, it's got the single-family zoning to it. To the west, there's a multifamily zoning and a single-family zoning. And then across the street to the south and to the east is a multifamily zoning as well. On page 20 of your packet, you'll see an aerial. The property is vacant currently. On page 21 of your packet, you'll see a survey that was provided to us. And now I'm going to refer you to page 22 of your packet, and this is the concept plan that was provided to us. That includes the numbers that correspond at the table that was described in the staff report as far as the different variances that are being requested. So number one there is a variance to the front yard setback. If this is approved, then what this is saying is that that approval will allow for that minimum setback, basically. So, excuse me, in this case, 14 feet, I believe, or 13 feet, it looks like, is what would be the remaining setback if this variance is requested. This would apply to all frontages. Number two, I believe, is a side, at least for that portion of the property, for that portion of the wall there. So that's asking for a remaining setback of 19 feet in lieu of 25 feet. That's a side corner. Number three was withdrawn, excuse me. Number four are to the side setbacks. And so the setback, if that variance is requested, would be 13 feet remaining, and that would apply to all sides, anywhere a side is considered, if that variance is approved. Number five, number 5, 6, 7, and 8 are variances to the perimeter landscape yard requirement, to the perimeter 20-foot landscape yard requirement. So if those variances are approved, what that is saying is that those perimeter landscapes widths will be reduced to that new width. So, for example, number 8 would be reduced to 11 feet where number 8 is located. If number 7 is approved, where number 7 is located, that landscape strip would be reduced down to that 18 feet instead of being 20 feet in that particular case, and so on. And if these are approved, of course, the applicant will have to provide landscaping in those areas that are satisfaction to the administrator as a condition of this variance, if it's approved, as we've recommended here tonight with the condition. And then lastly, number 9 is the request to allow part of the stormwater, the slope of the stormwater area structure to be located within that rear yard, or I'm sorry, within that perimeter landscape strip. On page 23 of your packet is the plat, and you can see, I believe, the property. I'm just going to look at the legal description real quick again. Block 54 on that plat is where this property is located. And you can see all of those blocks have alleyways that were approved as part of that original plat. This is how these were done. A lot of old cities were done platted this way. So we've got, the planner's perspective, we've got a suburban style development standard in a zoning district being applied to this standard, to this development pattern. So it's made it very difficult to try and meet the letter of the law as far as the requirements of that zoning district in order to allow a multifamily structure and use there. On page 24 of your packet, I've included the section of the code, the development standards of the R3 zoning district. And so you'll see the R3 zoning district allows for a variety of types of multifamily uses, including townhomes and duplexes and such on. On page 25 of your packet, you'll see the actual setback standards. Front yard setback is 25 feet, side corner 20, interior side is 10, and so on. And then there are illustrations of how that kind of development pattern would look if it was consistent with, if everything was consistent with that zoning district. And that's on page 26 and 27 of your packet. On page 28, I have included a section of the code that talks about the required landscape yard. And I tried to highlight there, hopefully you'll see that there. This is required to have a B-type landscape yard. And if you look further down on page 29, you'll see that a B-type landscape yard is a 20-foot wide landscape yard. So this is where the requirement's coming from. And this is because a multifamily is next to a single family, or a multifamily use is next to a multifamily, and so on. And again, on page 30, I just highlighted the section of the code, which I've already quoted before, about landscape yards shall not be included as drainage. That's specific, this is where it comes from in the code. So with that, that ends my presentation on this. I'll try and answer any questions you have about this application.
Where does the proposed fence go? Conditioned fence?
On page 19 of your packet, you'll see the zoning district map. So the proposed condition would require that where the properties are adjacent to R1C, single family, that screening would need to be put in there.
So that would only apply to that lot.
There is R1C immediately to the west on the northeast corner of South Robbins Avenue and Palmetto Street.
Yes.
And then another one on Pine and South Brown Street
Oh, okay.
on the north side.
Where would the fence be located, since you have an alleyway? Oh. Where would with that quote-unquote alleyway there, where would the fence, what would they do with the fence? Would it have to be on their side, leaving the hole, and then?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you can't put private structures inside public right-of-way.
So if they put theirs there and the other property owner puts theirs there, it's gonna be a 10-foot strip that the city's supposed to maintain?
City is maintaining those, yes, by mowing them, yeah.
They are, okay. Well, that's, I just didn't want to see wild vegetation going up and down there. Okay. Also on the, let's see, give it to my maps again. Page 22. When it shows the swale area or the draining area, it doesn't show it. I'm making an assumption it would go across the alley there.
No, sir. If he decided to propose it to be going through that alley during the site plan review, then the third condition would apply, and then he would have to request for that area to be vacated, subject to approval by city council.
Okay, that would go to city council. Okay. That's not us. Okay, I just see it stopping. So, ooh, that's all right. That's my questions. Next, anyone? All right. Well, no other questions of staff. We'll open it up to the public. At this time, our first card, please.
Stephanie Hopper. Drew Warren.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Warren, if you would give your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Drew Warren. I'm the Executive Director of Community of Hope, and my address is 1615 Gardenton Street, Northwest Palm Bay, 32907. I'm here to speak on behalf of Community of Hope and our history and what we've done as an agency over the last 15 years. Stephanie is prepared. She's our board chair, our board president, and she's prepared to speak on the variance itself. But Community of Hope has been around since 2005, and we have always been dedicated to the mission of housing homeless and low-income families. We've done well with this mission. We have expanded the mission to what was originally just transitional housing to now being, we do operate a small shelter program for families. We also have permanent supportive housing. Most of this is down in Palm Bay and Melbourne area, so we've expanded our program offerings. We'd like to expand where we offer them. So this is really an opportunity for us to move forward with coming further north and serving the population here. We've been doing that for the last couple of years with the shelter that we offer. We do offer that up here in conjunction with housing for homeless. But in terms of actual housing up here, this is our first opportunity to do that. And the city graciously granted us the land to do this. And it used to be a 15-unit, apparently not so well maintained, what was probably affordable housing. So you're switching out a 15-unit, not so well maintained affordable housing for what will be a really well maintained, as are all of our properties. We have 35 single-family units, and they're all extremely well maintained. They're the highlight of their neighborhoods wherever they're at. So we'd like to bring that up here, and this is an opportunity to do that. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate Brad and the city's work with us, and I appreciate your time.
Okay, you would be maintaining and doing the evaluations, who lives there and everything, right?
Yes.
As property owners.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Next card, please.
Stephanie Hopper.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Hopper. I live at 3303 Calle Del Mar in Melbourne, Florida, 32904. I'm president of the board of directors at Community of Hope and have held that position for several years. I also help with planning the maintenance activities. We have worked diligently with the staff of the city. This is the final layout that benefits the city and creates a green area that is away from the street and creates a safe haven for the children that will be living here. We are in agreement with the variance and all of its conditions.
Well, thank you. Any questions? No questions. Thank you very much. Call our next witness, please.
No more cards.
You're not going to speak? I can't speak. Oh, you can't even speak? Okay. So, if there are no other people to speak, then we will close the public hearing at this time. So, I'll bring it back to ask staff again. We've heard this thought that they are in agreement with all your recommendations, and staff is happy with those, Brad? Is that correct?
We are. I do want to make one clarification, though. It looks like it was pointed out to me just now that the side yard setback probably is not even necessary, because according to our code, it only requires a 10 feet. And they're not, so they're not reducing that. So I think even number 4 could probably be even removed.
Number 4?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, the green one there, number 4. Okay.
If, in other words, if it's approved, it wouldn't make any difference, because
Okay.
it looks like we made
All right, oh, okay.
a mistake there.
I would recommend that if the board is inclined to grant the variances, though, that variance be granted in an abundance of caution in case the staff requires that variance.
Very well. Are we required to vote individually on these, or can we do this in one mass?
Because they have been tabulated so nicely by staff in a nice, pretty chart, I think that you could refer to either of the tables in the staff report or in the concept plan as referenced in this item and do it all at one.
Thank you. That saves a lot of talking. Do we have any other questions of staff about this? Well, I will make the comment that I'm glad to see the property. I do remember It's past condition, and riding by and going, ooh. I personally am in real estate, so it didn't help to ride by that neighborhood to see that, and I look forward to seeing a greatly improved area. It will help out there. So welcome to Titusville, hopefully, and yeah, do I have a motion or any other discussion from anyone else?
I will make a motion to grant variance number 4-2019, specifically the variances as laid out on page 4 of the, on page 1 even, on page 1 of the, I don't know, what's it called? Staff report. I'm recognizing that number 3 has been withdrawn. And I'm seeking to grant that on the basis that this is the minimum variance necessary to create the most reasonable use of the property.
Okay, we have a motion.
Oh, and I guess I better specify the conditions.
I'll second
The-
that.
Wait a minute,
Do I need to put the conditions on the record?
she needs to finish the commission.
Okay,
What page
so
are you on?
additionally, in granting the variance, the following 3 conditions. 1, for the applicant to provide a landscape plan with appropriate vegetation to the satisfaction of the administrator of the code per section 30-337 subsection B. Second condition, the multifamily development shall be screened from the adjacent single-family zone properties with a fence in height of 6 feet and consistent with section 30-339 subsection A. And the last condition would be that in the event the applicant seeks to locate any improvement in the public right-of-way, that the applicant will apply to vacate that affected portion of the right-of-way.
Before you move on with that
Yes.
motion, I just want to clarify that that third condition, again, is specific to the alleyways. That is,
Yes.
and I didn't make that clarification in there, in the written condition.
The third condition would reflect the public right-of-way, meaning the alleyways only, yes.
All right, we have a long motion. Do I have a second?
Yes, I have to confess, I thought we were doing them singularly,
No,
so we're doing them in a group.
yeah,
Okay,
do it all at
that's-
one time.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, so we've had a motion. Is there any other discussion? Anybody else making a comment? Very good. May we have roll call, please?
Chairman Taylor,
Yes.
Member Smith Rodriguez,
Yes.
Member Johnson,
Yes,
Alternate Member Kilpatrick.
Yes. Very good. We have a 4-0 vote, so it is passed.
Thank you very much.
What you wiping your brow for, Sid? That was no problem. You didn't even have to speak.
he didn't even need to talk.
No, he didn't need to talk. He got away with it easy, didn't he? All right, well, that wraps up our new business. I will say, you had told us we were going to have 2 tonight, Brad. What happened?
We had one other application that we just could not get enough information out of the applicant, so we, after 2 months of that, we decided to consider the application to be incomplete and resend it back to the applicant. So we do have another application that was received just recently that will be on your July meeting, so.
So we do, right now, for sure have
Yeah,
one.
another one we do.
A different one, and possibly 2. Okay. All right. Well, at this point, we would see if there's any petitions or requests from the public, but do y'all wish to say anything else? Okay. Well, you just gave us a report about next month. Anything else? To enlighten
Yes, sir.
us? Okay. Anything from council?
I'll see you all at the Red, White, and Boom next week.
Yes, you will. And it will be hot, hot, hot. So be prepared. Staff members, anything? All right, I will remind everyone, we still have 2 vacancies, one with certain particular responsibilities, and the other is open to the public. So we would enjoy having some applications. Come and join us. Seeing nothing else on the agenda, we will consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you.